editions that are sold to the general public and are not special editions than I've seen of any other book. Isn't this the book based on Harry Styles' fanfiction? Like, it kind of should it's in like the general fiction section. This one we are focusing on my book club. The link to join my book club is always down below in the description of my videos. Feel free to join because it's a whole lot of fun and I love hearing different people's opinions on the same book. It's a lot of fun. I have to say fun. How many times? Let's get into the quote of the week, which is, "If you look for perfection, you'll never be content," by Leo Tolstoy. And that is so true because nothing in this life is absolutely perfect. At least I don't, because there's your love for something like my love for Fred, my love for Penny, since they're in here and they're here in me. They are perfect, but they do have their flaws. So are they perfect? Probably not. Leo Tolstoy. I've read 2 Leo Tolstoy books. Let's look at the weekly TBR. The book that I'm starting my day with is Dawnland Voices, an anthology of indigenous writing from New England. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but giving these indigenous writers a voice and publishing it. Now we had the book club pick, which is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Let's read together what this book is about. Deckled edges for a classic. In his journal, John Steinbeck called East of Eden the first book, and indeed it has the primordial power and simplicity of myth. Set in the rich farmland of California's Salinas Valley, this sprawling and often brutal novel follows the intertwined destinies of 2 families, the Trask and the Hamiltons, whose generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. Adam Trask came to California from the east to farm and raise his family on the new rich land. But the birth of his twins, Cal and Aaron, I don't know, there's only one A, brings his wife to the brink of madness, and Adam is left alone to raise his boys to manhood. One boy thrives nurtured by the love of all those around him. The other grows up in loneliness, enveloped by a mysterious darkness. First published in 1952, East of Eden is the work in which Steinbeck created his most mesmerizing characters and explored his most enduring themes, the mystery of identity and the inexplicability of love, and the murderous consequences of love's absence. A masterpiece of Steinbeck's later years, East of Eden is a powerful and vastly ambitious novel that is at once a family saga and a modern retelling of the Book of Genesis. Oh my gosh, that sounds like all the things that I like. I don't know how long the chapters are in here. I'm going to start by reading this physically, but you know, sometimes classics, that's only a 7-page first chapter, but you know, that might just be to ease you into the story. Okay, these chapters don't look too long, but classics are intimidating, and I've never read Steinbeck, so I don't really know what to expect there. Now we have my mood read, which I also do not know what this is about. This was a gift years ago. This is While You Sleep by Stephanie Merritt, so we'll look into this one you know, when it's time to mood read. And lastly, we have my ebook pick, which I read quite a bit of over the weekend, is Go Tell the Bees That I'm Going by Diana Gabaldon. This is a big genre-bending story, but it is following a family during the American Revolution with some time travel elements involved. And that is the weekly TBR. I'm gonna go have some lunch, then hang out with Delilah, and after that I will get into East of Eden. Guys, it is time to update y'all on East of Eden. Getting my planner so I can write down how many pages I read. And I'm taking notes in my, like, you know, full-size notebook because I don't have that many pages left in this little notepad. And for a tome, a book over 600 pages, I didn't think this would do and that I would need, you know, to get the big guns out here. I read 54 pages, getting me to, I think 9% was what it said on the apps. 9%, which I didn't think I would get that much done, because I mean, that's practically 10%, you know. I didn't think I would read that much today, but I did. Let's go into the notes here. Chapter 1. I can definitely see where the Demon Copperhead comparisons have come from, because when I finished Demon Copperhead, a lot of the Reddit posts that I read about the book were comparing it to the storytelling aspect we see in East of Eden. Now, how are they comparable? It's definitely, you have the first person perspective, and they're somebody looking back at their life, looking back at the history of their family, and seeing that's how it got them to where they are today. That would be the similarity. Random thing I learned, and I'm going to have to confirm by Googling, or maybe y'all can tell me, is that redwoods don't rot. Now I feel like redwoods are always put like they're highly rated trees, you know, because they're so massive. Sadly, I did not get to go to the redwood forest when I was in California because the national park, or I don't know, Muir Woods, there was no, they were at their limit. They couldn't have any more people coming in. I did not get to see the redwoods, but the redwoods are just so iconic, and you only hear about them because they're so like majestic, because they're so wide, and that like a car, they're like the size of a car or something, and the wood doesn't rot. That's amazing in itself. And here's a quote we get on page 6. And it never failed that during the dry years, the people forgot about the rich years, and during the wet years, they lost all memory of the dry years. And that's so true. When you're going through these moments in life, you're forgetting about everything else, and you're just like, oh my gosh, life is so terrible. You're not those good moments that are happening. Now, the world building, the first chapter is very descriptive. This writing style is very descriptive. That's why I only read like 50 some pages when I usually read about 70 pages, is this writing is really descriptive. Now, I'm not complaining about that. And the world building, you're getting a lot of world building in this first chapter. It's really setting the scene of this place in Northern California. And I do want to say that there were some like racist remarks towards Native Americans, calling Native Americans lazy. And it was like a 3-paragraph tangent, which I was like, okay, dude, we get it. We do also, that's the thing with reading classics, these people living in the past, they have opinions that we don't consider politically correct today, because obviously Native Americans were not lazy, they weren't a less than and all of that, like the author is saying, or like the character is saying. So I do want to just tell y'all that you are going to see that here, and probably with a lot of the books we're reading this month, since we're focusing on classics, that's probably going to be coming up. Now, chapter 2, there's this paragraph, I didn't write down what page it was on, because our character Samuel, he immigrated from Ireland. Young Samuel Hamilton came from the north of Ireland, and so did his wife. He was the son of small farmers, neither rich nor poor, who had lived on one landhold and in one stone house for many hundreds of years. The Hamiltons managed to be remarkably well educated and well read, and as is so often true in that green country, they were connected and related to very great people and very small people, so that one cousin might be a baronet and another cousin a beggar. And of course they were descended from the ancient kings of Ireland, as every Irishman is. I love that, and it's just that is Ireland. That is how Irish people are. I mean, I haven't been there, but from what I know. And then they had this book because Samuel is, they're in a really like rural, isolated area in Northern California. Samuel is the one who is delivering the babies of the family. A lot of people start going to him for medical things or calling him up, you know, I don't know what they were calling, but you know, calling him up, maybe not on the phone, but saying, like, asking for help. He eventually gets this book that is all about medical issues, but nobody in the family touched the sections on like the STDs, and I thought that was kind of funny. I wasn't expecting to see that here, but we have to remember this is 1952. Your grandparents were probably alive if you're my age. I don't know how old y'all are. I think the majority of my viewers are in my age demographic, but it's not that long ago, and I talk about it in the Fable Book Club that people only think people in the past were so serious because they might be like in the pictures and not smiling. People are people. People had senses of humor, they had emotions, and this is random, but Samuel, he gives me Jamie Fraser vibes. He's like a hardworking man. He's a family man. They're building this house and they add a little on every time there's a kid. He has the lots of land ready for each child after they're born. He expands the ranch, just giving Jamie Fraser vibes. Now we go into chapter 3 and we are introduced to the Trask family. This is in Connecticut in New England. We first meet Cyrus, who he goes on to fight for the Union in the Civil War, and his war story is probably pretty close to what a real war story is. Not everybody's gonna go. That's the thing we see a lot of times in media, and I'm sure in real life. Boys just have this idea of going to war and that it's gonna be this great big adventure, but like that's not always the case, and that's greatly shown here. And then Cyrus is living this like wild American lifestyle. Like he is living the crazy life. Like he is sent off to war. He's having this, he's being very adventurous. He is whoring, gambling, all of that. And I'm like, that's just the crazy American lifestyle. Then you have this Irishman who's like the family man and all that, setting up the ranch. There's this whole part about when you realize that adults are humans. It says when you realize they're not gods. Is that when you start adulting? Is that when that hits? Let me know what you think on that. Chapter 4 on page 32, I made a note saying he gets it. What does he get? Direction. Okay. It is probable that if he had found him that night, he would have killed him or tried to. The direction of a big act will warp history, but probably all acts do the same in their degree, down to a stone stepped over in the path, or a breath caught at the sight of a pretty girl, or a fingernail nicked in the garden soil. Don't I tell y'all that all the time, that every single second, every single thing in this universe matters. 35, we see this quote, he put on paper many things he did not know about himself, and oh my gosh, isn't that true? Sometimes you just start writing and you're putting all your emotions out there, and I think once you look back at it one day, you're like, whoa, who knew? That letter, it was a letter scene, and it was so chilling. The character Adam says it was chilling. In chapter 5, these stories of these two families, because we do have our, you know, our Irish family who are in California, and that seems just very dry. It's yellow's the color I'm seeing there. It's very sunny, dry. And then we have our the Hamilton family who are in Connecticut at this point. It's very dark, damp, dreary, like kind of that blue and black colors is what I'm seeing. And then in chapter 6, I've been meaning to make the note, and this is just where I made it. Adam is not what I expected, because as I said, we have Samuel who's like very much the family man, and I was like, okay, so our opposite's gonna be somebody who is like partying, an awful person and all this, and that he's going to be just a bad person. But no, I don't think Adam is straight up a bad person. He's somebody who's trying to find his place in life. He's not really sure of what he wants and is just trying to find that, and trying to find this image of himself, of who he is. He's trying to, I don't think he wants to end up like his parents. I think that's something with him. And those are my thoughts on East of Eden for the day. I am wanting to tell y'all what the mood read is about now that we are about to start. It is called While You Sleep by Stephanie Merritt. Again, I got this as a gift, so thank you to my father for giving me this book. Okay, a modern day ghost story set on a remote Scottish island. While You Sleep is a page-turning, chillingly erotic Hitchcockian thriller. On an isolated Scottish island, the McBride house stands guard over its secrets. A century ago, a young widow and her son died mysteriously there. Just last year, a local boy visiting for a dare disappeared without a trace. For Zoe Adams, newly arrived from America, the house offers a refuge from her failing marriage. Always a failing marriage. But her peaceful retreat is disrupted by strange and disturbing events. Nighttime intrusions, unknown voices, a constant sense of being watched. The locals want her to believe that these incidents are echoes of the McBride's dark past. Zoe is convinced the danger is closer at hand and all too real. But can she uncover the truth before she is silenced? What really drew me to this is that house and estate. I love those kind of settings. And then a modern day ghost story. When I was first getting into like reading chapter books and everything as a kid, I loved ghost stories. And we're in Scotland. We're in Scotland. Hey guys, it is time for our nightly update. Happy April, by the way. Today is April Fool's Day. I don't really have any jokes up my sleeve. I'm a jokester all year round, and we're gonna let for a jump. Maybe he has a joke, who knows. Watch him turn off the light. I do want to show y'all, oh gosh, his leg is in the strap or whatever, in the handle thing. But I want to show y'all what I got at Barnes & Noble today. I got 3 paperbacks, and then I had $5 off, and I'm a member there. So these were all about $15 pieces, $46 all together. I don't remember the cent of, what was the cent there. But yes, we are focusing on classics this month. I picked, and these are the highest rated classics on my to buy list according to Goodreads. We have One Chingin, which is the Monkey King Journey to the West. Yes, this is a classic. It is a, like, what is the word? Literary fantasy. And there's not really a description on the tab. So one of the all-time great fantasy novels, Monkey King Journey to the West, is at once a rollicking adventure, a comic satire of Chinese bureaucracy, and a spring of spiritual insight. And so many people I know from like from fantasy fandoms that I'm a part of love this and have recommended me it, so that's why I picked it up. Next is we're going to the Jazz Age, back to America, with Ex-Wife by Ursula Parrott, with a foreword by Alyssa Bennett and afterward by Mark Parrott. Let's see there. So an instant bestseller when it was published anonymously in 1929, the story of a divorce and its aftermath, which scandalized the Jazz Age. Lastly, this was the highest rated classic on my to buy list, and that is James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk, with an introduction by Britt Bennett. Oh my gosh, because she's going to be on a TBR in the future. She has been in the past and will be again. In this honest and stunning novel, James Baldwin has given America a moving story of love in the face of injustice. Those are the books that I got at Barnes & Noble today. Let me throw my tote bag over there. And now we are going to talk about East of Eden. I got to 21%, so we're not going to do like a call pal on it yet to see how I'm feeling at this point in the book. But where did my notes start for today? We start on chapter 7, and this one is basically like Red Dead Redemption 2 of how I play video games. I like to wander around, explore the world, and that is what we were getting into. I was definitely loving that. And I am now making notes of what is happening in the chapters, especially today. We've had some longer chapters, and that's why I read about 20 more pages than I did yesterday. I read 71 pages today. I am just making notes of the key things that are happening in chapters. It's like, I always compare this to Stephen King because he's the first author I read that did it, where you see there's like a 1 and there will be, you know, however many sections in the chapter. That is what I'm doing. I'm being like, okay, this one was, we had this character wandering around, we had this character death, and then we had this happen. Just making little like bullet points of what is happening in each section. And now we are seeing how we talked about how I said is realizing your parents are human, is that when you start adulting. We had another character go through that today, but through a much later standpoint in life, and I've never seen it done at that late of an age of having that realization. Chapter 8, we had the classic physiological debate if monsters are, you know, created. And at this time period, they thought monsters were just like deformities, you know, somebody who looks different. But Steinbeck is saying, can somebody be born that way mentally and mentally be an evil person? So are people born evil, or does it come in the upbringing? And my first sense is like, no, it comes with how you're raised. But then I'm like, I don't really know. It's a great debate to get into. And when I was in school, again, back in Christian school, we had like those kind of debates a lot on different kind of things. But if somebody is born a certain way, or if it was how they were raised. And then I have this quote here on page 71, very prevalent. You must not forget that a monster is only a variation, and that to a monster, the norm is monstrous. So there's some things that we just cannot understand. Like with last month's Buddy Read with like Hitler and the Nazis, I'm just like, I do not understand how people can be like that. But they are monsters, so that is their normal. And I think that says, my friend Marquise only is like, it's a good thing we don't understand why these people are the way that they are. And I think that shows that we are not monsters, because we don't see that as normal. We see it as crazy. And I think that quote really like solidified that. But now we're introduced to a new character, and I'm like, where are we going to this? Where are we going with this? Who is Kathy? What is her relation going to be to the story? Let's see my next page of notes here. So I'm thinking she's going to be one of the prostitutes in Connecticut that our brothers get on with. I don't know though. That's just my theory of when we're introduced to her. But I am glad that the writing of sex workers has changed, because on page 90, we are introduced to this character who is a whore master, is the word used. So he's like Littlefinger, Peter Baelish. Yeah, I can't find it, but it was just describing these women, and basically is saying they were stupid and everything. And it was like, no, and then a smart girl came into the profession, but she usually moved up to better things. And yeah, I don't believe that to be true, because I think a lot of time it's just women who are trying to survive, or they're in that generational cycle. But again, this was published in the 1950s and it's taking place in like the 1890s. A lot has changed. We know a lot more. But then we have those debates, that great psychological debate on monsters. It's just really like, take it as you will, I guess. Okay, chapter 10. I do think this is good writing, but it's not great writing, because I definitely do just, I'm like, it's very descriptive and it's painting a great picture. Like, I can see everything that is happening and I understand everything that is happening. Now, I do think there are some instances where there's a lot of telling and not showing. Like when we're talking about Adam, when he's going off on all his adventures, I would like to see that. I think that'd be really interesting, but we're not seeing that. But it's just so descriptive, and it's not like Maggie O'Farrell kind of descriptive where it takes like 3 paragraphs to get to the point. It does get to the point, but at the same time I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be reading through these long descriptions of every little detail. Like, I don't care if when he's pulling up his underwear that it goes around his knees or whatever. Like, I can go without that, but I can appreciate that it is good, because it is good at painting that scene and everything. And then there is some just great intelligent moments. You can definitely tell that John Steinbeck is an intelligent person. And yeah, the character work, it's kind of like Normal People, where I would start liking Connell, and then 25% later Marianne would be my favorite. I hope her name was Marianne. It was something like that. Marianne. And that's the thing with like Charles and Adam, because now I'm liking Charles, and when earlier I was liking Adam, but I do think I'd be more like Adam in this situation. And maybe that's why. Maybe it's just something in my head where I'm gonna dislike the one that I think I would be more like. And so then I realized I think Adam is really living the life that his father Cyrus wanted to live. We talked about how when men go off to war, or when boys go off to war, they think it's gonna be this great adventure. I feel like Adam is actually living that experience. Maybe not necessarily only in war, but I think he's living the life that his father actually wanted to live, where at the same time, Adam doesn't want to become his parents. So that's a really intriguing mental battle in the head there. Now, chapter 11, which is the last chapter I got to today, just the fighting with the brothers. I'm getting tired of it. It's going in circles. I'm like, we get it. Y'all are different. Y'all want different things. Just, can y'all get this concluded? I'm getting annoyed reading that. And what else do we have here? So I'm unsure about Adam and just how he is towards Kathy. Yeah, I have a lot of uneasiness about that. And again, this is how I'm saying I was starting to prefer Charles at this point. I don't think any of these characters are like 100% great people. And we didn't have any of our California characters today. There was a lot of dialogue in chapter 11 as well. And it was the dialogue that I personally call lazy. Like John Steinbeck likes to call prostitutes and Native Americans lazy. But just that, I think, where it's like just the dialogue for a while. I do think, so that's the thing. With John Steinbeck, he's not going to half-ass it. He's going to go all the way. Where that dialogue, it's going to be a lot of dialogue at once. If it's not dialogue, it's going to be a lot of description at once. Like, he does not half-ass things. I don't know how to say that in like a clean way and not a vulgar way, not a swearing way. So I'm sorry about that. But he puts his all into it. And honestly, I can respect that, but that is just not my kind of writing. But I do think it's good writing, and I do respect it, as I said. So that's why I do think the writing is a 3-star. But those are all my thoughts on East of Eden for the day. It's time for our nightly update. Happy Wednesday. Oh, I did buy a book today. I bought the new Hunger Games book at Target, and the Target one has some bonus content. I'm not sure what that is. And I'm thinking of, when am I going to reread The Hunger Games? I don't want to read these 2 newer books until I reread the trilogy. I want to do it in publication order, because originally I was like, should I do it in the chronological of when it takes place in that universe? I'm like, no, Suzanne Collins published it in a certain order for a reason. And I was like, the Hunger Games girl. I don't want to say I was because I don't want to, you know, lessen anybody else's experience, but we were obsessed. If you get my yearbook from like the 2011-2012 school year, there's so many quotes about Finnick Odair and his underwear. Love him. Like, we were obsessed. Like, I was dressed up as Katniss for Halloween. I think it was the year after that. I wasn't allowed to go trick-or-treating, but I went to like my church's trunk-or-treat with one of my friends. We had Mockingjay pins. Like, my friend group was obsessed. And then, you know, in middle school, and then I don't know, was I in high school when the last movie came out, going to the movies the day the movie premiered, and I'm like, I went with different people for like every single premiere. That's kind of funny. I saw the movies in theaters multiple times. I remember when I read the first Hunger Games book, I was here with my grandmother and I read it in like 3 days, which at that time was incredibly fast for me. We will have to do it at some point. I don't know when this is going to happen, but we definitely need to do it. But with East of Eden, I read 57 pages a day, getting me to 30%. So now that we're over a quarter of the way into it, we're just going to talk about my thoughts today. I obviously did take notes today, but rather than go through this, I think at our quarterly marks is when we're going to go talk about my feelings, not just my notes, which all these will be on Fable. If you guys want to see them, Fable is always linked down below, and it will be on the Raindrops book club section of Fable, which is what I think the link goes to. Let's start with characters. I actually made note of this today. I had this thought because I was like, I don't think these characters are poorly written, but why am I not feeling substantially like pulled to them or something? And I think it's because it's like we're sat down in front of somebody by the fireplace, you know. I'm thinking of like Ireland, that book. I don't remember who wrote that book, but how like there in Ireland, like storytellers would all go around, and that's funny, the Hamilton family are Irish in this, but I feel like we're sitting by the fire and this man is telling you a story, but we're not really immersed in the story. We're just being told these things. And that's why I think that I am lacking really a connection to the characters. I do think they're really interesting to read from and all of that. So I think I would give the characters like a 3. It could go up to a 4 because again, we are only 30% of the way into the book. Atmosphere is incredible. I am going to say a 4. which I mean, that sounds like, I said incredible, that sounds like it should be higher, but a 4-star. That is one of the highlights of this book, is being immersed into a scene. Now, I said we're not immersed into the stories, but we are immersed into a scene, and it's so vivid being able to picture everything. And this book is really like using your senses, invoking your senses. I was like, is it invoking? And it's invoking your senses. I talked a lot about colors, of how I am picturing like certain colors with different things, and I think especially today with our like California plot lines, Steinbeck really was using like yellows and browns, emphasizing those colors. It's just so easy to picture. That leads us to the writing. The writing is so descriptive, so I'm giving the writing a 3 because that's not my kind of writing style, but I do think it is a good writing style. I think it's very intelligent, and there are a lot of good discussions in this book. It's very descriptive, and there's some things where I'm like, do I really need to know that? And it takes a little while to read. This is definitely a slow-paced book. And then plot, I don't even know what to feel about the plot. Like, is this plot heavy? I don't think so, but that is so hard for the plot. I don't really know what to say for the plot right now. We're not going to put a number right there, and we're not adding up these numbers or anything because we're not rating the book yet. I don't know what I would do with the plot. I don't know what I would rate it. I don't have a lot to say about the plot because I feel like all this that we've had so far, like all that I read up until today, was all basically preparing us. I didn't feel like we were in the story yet. Now I feel like we're actually getting into the actual story of these two families in the Salinas Valley in California, which I still need to Google where that is. The intrigue, yeah, I guess it's like a 3. I want to know what's going to happen, but since I'm not so invested in the characters, you know, logic, 4 or 5. It is incredibly a smart book, very intelligent book, and I do think a lot of it has made sense. And then enjoyment, like a 3. It's and not like enjoyment is a 3. So I'm getting 3-star vibes from this. Y'all can do the math on everything I just said and find out what that average was. But that's how I'm feeling with East of Eden right now on Wednesday, I think it was my 3rd day of reading. Hey guys, happy Friday. Not Friday, why am I saying it's Friday? It is Thursday. I'm going to go through my notes of East of Eden. I got to 40%, which was 56 pages read. We will still be reading this in next week's vlog till sometime probably into the middle of that vlog, because I do think it's going to take me about 10 days to read this book, and I start on Monday, so probably like a week left. So maybe this will be the main focus of next week's vlog as well. But let's do go over my notes. I was about to do like a wrap up for y'all, but no, we're not at that stage yet. I started today on chapter 17, and y'all know something I don't like about books is when there is a villain, but it's just like they're a villain for the sake of having a villain. It doesn't expand on why they are a villain, and I thought this quote was perfect for that. It's easy to say she was bad, but there is little meaning unless we know why. That was on page 182. And when people tell, like, you know, when I would hear people talk about East of Eden, I was just not expecting the story that we're having with the character of Kathy. I did not expect it at all. And let's see. But yeah, Kathy, she's a tough, rough woman. I don't know if she's supposed to be Eve, maybe. And you know how Eve, you know, went and ate the apple and, you know, was not behaving. I don't know if that's supposed to be the parallel. I cannot wait until I finish this and go look at all the biblical parallels, because these are like biblical stories that everybody on the face of the earth knows, because they've been around for thousands of years, and just everybody knows Adam and Eve. And it's so much of culture, at least Western culture, but I would say it's even expanded at this point, comes from that. Now we have chapter 18, and we have somebody of Basque origin. Like when I saw the name, I thought they were going to be Greek, but it's Basque. And I have kind of wondered if I might be part Basque because I have such a rare maternal haplogroup that there's not a lot of info on, but apparently a lot of people with this haplogroup do come from the Basque region. And the Basque region, there's a lot of unknown. Its language is unlike any other language in the rest of Europe. And again, the blood types, there's a lot of Rh negative blood types there. I've been told my grandmother thinks I have a negative blood type, and I don't remember when I did the test what my blood type was, but I'm pretty sure it was negative. But with that kind of stuff, I don't remember all those nitty-gritty things. I'm curious if I am a Basque origin. I don't know though, but every time I see it, like, that's a culture that really fascinates me, and I wasn't expecting to see it here. Kathy's giving me low-key vampire vibes. I don't think it's gonna go there, but just some of the things or the way people are describing her, I'm like, she sounds like a vampire. Like, it sounds like it's gonna take like a horror twist, which I don't think it will, but that was just kind of the vibe I was getting. Now we have chapter 19. We're introduced to a new character, or is she? And we meet, now we have the character Faye, who we meet in these chapters, and she just seems so nice and so caring, and I'm like, this is another person that Kathy's gonna destroy and hurt. I don't want to be there for it. I don't want to be there for it. Vibes there were just so weird. Like, I'm starting to picture Kathy as the actress who plays Octavia on Rome. I don't know, that's who I'd cast though. Don't know. But the vibes in this were so weird. I did not know where this was going to go, but I'm like, I have to remember this is in the 1950s. I don't think it's gonna go certain places, but it's still kind of crazy. And there were some words where I was like, oh, I'm kind of shocked to see that's in a book from this time period. Again, that's just, I think we all get blinded by just history and time. And lastly, when I hear about East of Eden, I did not expect this plot line. It is just crazy, and it's going to be really interesting just to see what the author does with it. You know, we've been talking about what is a monster, what makes a monster, and again, I was not expecting that here, but at the same time, I'm like, is he only going to have this woman just be villainizing a woman? But we do have those deep discussions where it makes me think, no, I don't think it's just because she's a woman and that's why she's being written like this. But again, we still have 60% of the book to go. We still have the majority of the book ahead of us. But yes, this is giving me 3-star vibes. It's good. I do think it's a good book, but it's not doing a ton for me. Now let's go into the weekly wrap-up. I've only read over 100 pages one day this week. I definitely could have picked up my Greek mythology book the other 2 days because I still had read over 90 pages. Last night that hockey game went on so long because everybody just had to keep throwing hands, and I'm like, can y'all stop? Thank you, Tom Wilson. Thank you. So I could have read more. I didn't. Then today I would read the Greek mythology book if I don't hit 100 with all the other books that I'm reading. Again, I'm telling myself that hopefully I do it. And I did haul 4 books this week. I didn't put in my Hunger Games books so far, but I hauled A Bill Street Could Talk, The Ex-Wife, and Journey to the West. And then the Reaping and Songbird, I don't even know what that book's called, but the new Hunger Games book. So I hauled 4 books this week. I'm allowed to haul 6 more new books, but also I can go to little free libraries. I can go to Goodwill. I don't know if I'm going to go to Goodwill tomorrow. Maybe it's just, yeah, we're just going to have to see if I do or not. But what is going to be happening next week, again, it's just going to be a really random vlog. I think most likely our main focus is going to be East of Eden, but if it's not, it will be my nonfiction, which I will be doing on audio. It is a longer book, and that is Chesapeake Requiem by Earl Swift. It is, again, a nonfiction about the vanishing community on Tangier Island in the Chesapeake Bay, of how a community is so isolated. What are the impacts of our modern society having on isolated communities? But that is it for this week. If you made it through this whole video, leave a rain emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.